Hi everyone, welcome to Enjoy English School. I'm Steven.
I'm Minnie.
Today we're covering culture for the date of January 11th and covering pages 24 to 27.
那我们今天在第24到27页，主题是文化之窗，然后我们今天是1月11号咯。
Okay. And the title is Motorcycles versus Scooters.
那今天主题是这个机车大车拼。
So versus, we would say it's spelled out V-E-R-S-U-S, but we will shorten it to V-S period. Okay, so versus scooters. In the battle of two-wheeled transportation, which comes out on top?
那 versus vs 这个字啊，我们台湾人都会念 vs， 其实它叫 versus 要注意一下，它叫 versus。那我们今天的主题呢，就是在这个两轮的交通工具之间的战争，到底哪一个会胜出呢？
Which one will it be? Let's get started. In the U.S., freedom is everything.
那在美国呢，自由就是一切。
U.S. is just a short way of saying United States. So in the United States, freedom is everything. What does it mean that it is everything? It means that it is very, very, very important.
很有代表性或很重要的，我们就会说 it's everything.
So to me, eating is everything. What does that mean?
吃东西最重要，吃货认证。
Eating is everything. It is. Okay. Nothing says freedom more than taking to the open road on a motorcycle.
所以没有什么比骑着摩托车前往广阔无尽的道路上奔驰更自由的事了。
Right, so here we're using the verb says as if they're 讲话, right? Says, but in this situation, it's not saying things. It means something or represents something, okay?
所以 say 通常我们讲说嘛，例如像我现在在说话，对不对 ？I say something， 但 say 同时也可以代表说他在讲意指什么事情或代表什么事情。
And represent, it is spelled R-E-P-R-E-S-E-N-T, okay? So nothing represents freedom more than taking to the open road. So what does it mean by take to the open road? So when you're taking to the open road, it means that you're starting traveling. Okay, so let's start traveling. Let's take to the open road. Let's go somewhere. That means let's start traveling to somewhere on a motorcycle.
所以这边 take to the open road 开到这个广阔的地方，也可以等同于说我们来一趟旅行。然后在这边呢 ，Teacher Minnie 要来补充一个 nothing more than 的句型，也是国中、高中必考的句型。没有任何事情比什么更重要，我们就会说 nothing more than。所以我们用 nothing 这个否定当做强调。
Okay, so that means taking to the open road is the best way to represent freedom. Okay, so nothing says this more than taking to the open road.
所以旅游就是自由最好的一个代表。
Yes, an open road, you can imagine it's a road where there's no other cars, there's nothing stopping you, there's nothing blocking your way. That is what an open road is. There's endless possibilities.
就是感觉好像一望无际，广阔无边，然后我们要去哪里就去哪里，这样子开阔的地方。
What a great feeling, right?
Yes.
But what really led to America's great love affair with these two-wheeled beasts?
但是到底是什么促成了美国对这两轮猛兽的疯狂热爱呢？
Right. So a lot of creative ways to say things, okay?
Yes.
So led to America's great love affair. The led to, you could also use the verb caused, C-A-U-S-E, and in this situation with a D. So what really caused America's great love affair? Affair is another word for relationship. Okay, what caused this great love relationship with these two-wheeled, that means that there are two wheels. So this is an adjective. Beast. Now, beast is usually used to kind of describe an animal of some kind.
Yes.
So it's kind of saying that motorcycles are like animals, maybe because they make that vroom, vroom sound like a lion or some kind of scary animal.
Yeah, so beast 我们知道 Beauty and the Beast 是美女野兽嘛，所以 beast 这个字是野兽的意思。那老师刚刚我觉得解释的蛮好的可能是因为机车它可以发出那种引擎低吼的那个声音，所以我们就把摩托车然后用 beast 这个字来当做比喻。
And also, usually beasts are untamed. Okay?
不好驾驭。
不好驾驭的. So that's why they can do whatever they want. So this is a good word to use to describe a motorcycle.
It is.
All right, let's take a short break. Perhaps surprisingly, motorcycles are not actually an American invention.
哦，
I didn't know that.
也许令人出乎意料的是，其实摩托车不是美国的发明哦。
Right, so we're using the word perhaps, kind of like maybe, surprisingly.
或许
So why are we using the word perhaps? Because some people might not think it's surprising, right? I do, because I didn't know that. But some people might be like, oh, I knew that. That's why perhaps surprisingly. Okay.
所以 perhaps 在这边我们强调的是说，哦，就对我们俩来讲，美国的摩托车不是美国做的这件事情，我们是觉得蛮惊讶。但 perhaps 或许有些人不觉得惊讶。
That's right. And then here we're also using the word actually an American invention because we're just trying to emphasize that some people, like I said, might think that Americans made the motorcycle. So actually could be taken out of the sentence, but adding it really emphasizes that this might be surprising information to some people.
所以 actually 在这边其实是加强语气作用，它其实文法上来讲没有它是没有关系的。
还是多加一个其实。
对，其实不是哦。
对。And what is an invention? Let's talk about the verb invent first. That means that you're making this thing for the first time. 发明. So invention is the noun form of that. Okay? So let's find out where it's from because I'm curious.
Yes.
The first one was made in Paris in 1867 and it was powered by steam.
所以第一台摩托车它其实是1867年的时候在法国巴黎制造的，而且呢它是蒸汽驱动的哦。
Right. In this sentence we see was made in Paris in 1867. So don't be uncomfortable using this preposition twice in one sentence. One in is talking about the location in Paris. The second in is talking about the time, the year it was made in. Okay, so in Paris in 1867, perfectly acceptable. So don't worry.
所以在这个句子我们看到两个 in 连在一起使用，很多人会怕怕的，想说我是不是用错了？但不要担心哦，它没有用错。in 加地方 in 加年代，它都是正确的介系词使用。
And here we can also, instead of made in Paris, we can use the verb that we talked about earlier. Invent. So the first one was invented in Paris in 1867. But we have to say invented. Why? Because
因为被动语态。
它不是他自己发明自己。
机车自己发明自己多可怕。
Right, that'd be scary. And the first one was powered by steam. So what does it mean by powered by something? It means that this thing makes it run. Okay, 这个东西会让它运作。
被什么驱动的意思，所以这边也是被动语态。
That's right, powered by steam. And steam is
蒸汽。
蒸汽. That's pretty cool. About 20 years later, the first motorcycles using modern engines popped up in Europe.
所以在大概20年之后，首批利用现代引擎装置的摩托车终于 pop up 出现了，在哪里呢 ？Europe 欧洲。
Okay. In this sentence, about does not mean 关于. Okay. It means
大约
when we put it around a time, that means like around 20 years later.
Approximately.
Yeah, approximately 20 years later. The first motorcycles using modern engines popped up. What does it mean by popped up? Pop, the verb means like that. Right? It shows up immediately or suddenly. Okay?
How do you make that sound?
Right, pop. Okay, so pop up just means showed up immediately in Europe. Okay.
所以 pop up 这边，刚刚老师那个动态的那个 pop 的声音，对不对？有点像爆米花 popcorn，突然间一颗玉米就变成花这样子的感觉。所以这边也是一样，就是出现的意思。
对，有一种立马，就是突然间。
怎么突然间就这样子出现了？
Soon, the idea spread to America.
那很快的，这个概念就 spread into 就流传到了美国。
对，这个 soon 一定要前面就是在讲，对，就是这个刚刚前面讲的情况，它的很快速就是 immediately 发生的这个事情，对，所以这个 soon 是用这个方式来表达。So soon, the idea spread to America. What is another thing that can spread other than ideas? Something else can spread too. Bacteria and viruses. So wash your hands. Okay, so you can say the virus spread to America. Okay, so let's go back to the idea of motorcycles.
Okay.
In 1901, the Indian Motorcycle Company produced the first American-made motorcycles.
所以在1901年的时候呢，印第安重机公司才生产了第一批属于美国制的重机车。
Right, and the Indian here is not for 印度. Okay, it means 美国的印第安人。
印第安人？
印第安人。So here, always pay attention to Indian, like the English word. it can be from people from India, or it can talk about Native Americans, okay? But we just call them Indians, and you have to pay attention to even though it's the same word, the meaning is different. Okay, in this situation, because it's an American company, we know that we're talking about Native Americans and not people from India.
所以 Indian 这个字，它有可能是在讲印度人，也有可能是在讲就是我们所谓的 Native Americans 美国的原住民，对，印第安人。所以我们这时候就要看句意去分辨到底他在讲哪一个。
Right, and here the word produced, another word you could use is created. Okay, created.
制造、创造。
Or invented.
Or manufactured.
Or manufactured. Yes, these are all different words you could use. The first American-made motorcycles. So in this sentence, American-made is an adjective, just meaning that this was made in America. That's right. 2 years later, Harley-Davidson followed suit.
哇，这个就有名啦。2年之后，这个哈雷戴维森摩托车公司就跟进了，就是我们的所谓的哈雷机车嘛。
Yes. So what does follow suit mean? Suit is a word for like on a card game, like poker cards, like when you see like playing cards, like when you see like the face of the card, like hearts or diamonds, that's like a suit. So a heart is a suit. Diamonds is a suit. So follow suit is, and there's a particular game in playing cards where once there's like a suit, let's say we put down hearts, the other people need to put down hearts as well. So you're following suit. So what this actually means, it means imitate someone or do what someone else does. Okay, so Harley-Davidson, they're doing exactly what the Indian motorcycle company did. They're imitating them, copying them.
所以 follow suit 这个呢，它这个词是来自于你玩牌的时候 follow suit， 例如像它的不同的星啊，红星，或者是我们所谓的那个叫什么？ Diamond
是
红色的菱形，
黑色的，
黑色的
Diamond 是红色的，
对，
没错，
对没？对 ，Diamond 是红色的菱形，那我们就要跟随它一样的那个图案，然后去压那个牌，这个时候我们就叫 follow suit。所以 follow suit 后来就引申成有点像 follow， 有点像跟进、跟随的意思 ，copy 的意思，或 imitate， 对 ，imitate 模仿的意思。
That's right. Let's take a short break. As the 20th century continued, motorcycles became a symbol of youth and freedom in the U.S., mostly for young men.
所以随着20世纪的推移，摩托车在美国对年轻男性而言成了青春跟自由的这个象征。
Right, a symbol 就是象征 of youth and freedom. So in Chinese 我们会先说是什么东西的象征 but in English 是象征什么什么东西。Okay, so it's a symbol of youth and freedom. And if you want to use the verb form of symbol, it's symbolize.
Symbolize.
Okay, so the motorcycle symbolized youth and freedom in the U.S. But for who? Mostly for young men. Okay, 大多数
是年轻男性。
Yes. Movies like The Wild One, which was released in 1953 and starred Marlon Brando, made many young guys want to buy a bike and hit the road.
所以像是1953年上映由马龙白兰度主演的这个飞车党这部电影，都让很多的年轻男子想要买一台机车，然后就上路奔驰。
In this sentence, when we have comma, which was released in 1953 and starred Marlon Brando, comma, this part of the sentence could be taken out. It's not part of the main sentence. The main sentence is movies like The Wild One made many young guys want to buy a bike and hit the road. Okay, so we're only adding this part between the commas to give more information about this movie because not many people know this movie now because it's an old movie. So it's just trying to tell when it was released and who was in it. So when someone is in a movie, we will say that they star in this movie. So this movie starred Marlon Brando. In Chinese, starred is 主演还是饰演 Okay, so it starred Marlon Brando, and this movie was made. This movie made many young guys. Okay, 引起了很多年轻男孩子 to want to buy a bike. In this situation, this bike is not like a bicycle. Okay, we could also use bike to call like a motorcycle.
Motorbike.
Yeah, a motorbike. Okay, so it depends on the sentence or the context and what we're talking about. We won't be talking about motorcycles and all of a sudden talk about a bicycle.
Yes.
Okay, so just know that sometimes in English though, we might be confused. We might be like, oh, I just got a new bike. Your friends might be like, oh, did you get a bicycle?
Or
motorcycle, right? Or if this person is a person who loves motorcycles, you'll know that he didn't buy a bicycle. He bought a motorcycle. So it depends on context.
所以刚刚我们老师讲说 which was released 这一段 which 前面有一个逗号，然后在这个 Brando 后面有一个逗号，这一段其实它在形容前面有点斜体字这个的 Wild One， 意思就是代表说飞车党这个电影，然后他再补充飞车党的一些资讯，因为它是1953年的电影嘛，然后他演戏的人跟这个年代可能已经有点久远，所以我们用一个这个 which 的句子逗号来形容，来补充说明这个的 Wild One。那注意的 Wild One 它是斜体，然后第一个字大写是因为它是一个名称，电影的名称，所以它才这样子做书写体的表示。那再来后面这边有看到个 made many young guys， 这个 made 其实就中文翻译起来有点像是让年轻的男子都想模仿，对不对？都想买一台机车。那我们这边的机车我们用 bike bike， 都是2轮的啦。但是通常我们因为前面在提到机车，所以后面我们在讲的时候就可以用 bike 来代表，不然的话还是建议大家要讲清楚，不然可能你在聊天的过程中可能会误以为你买的是机车，别人以为你买的是脚踏车。
That's right. And also I think it's a good point that you said that made is like 让 right? A lot of times because when we're learning 让这个字 we will think let L-E-T, but let is more like 允许，你允许我这样做 right? Made is like 你引起一个人去做一个东西，你让了他做这个事情。Okay, so made many young guys want to buy a bike and hit the road. If I saw this hit the road, I thought it meant literally. Hit means 打击 right? So hit the road 就是打那个路 but that's not what it means, okay? When we hit the road, that means
上路咯。
上路了 Hey, let's go. We're going on vacation, right? Let's hit the road.
Let's go.
我们直接走吧那种意思 okay? So it doesn't really mean hit the road, okay?
轮胎打地板就代表上路的意思。
Yeah, I'm afraid if we don't teach that, if someone says, oh, let's hit the road, and then you go and you really hit the road, no, it just means 出发的意思。 Okay? Motorcycle rallies became increasingly popular too.
那重车团的这个也变得越来越受欢迎。
So what are rallies? Well, the singular form is R-A-L-L-Y, rally. Okay, but the plural form takes the Y out and adds I-E-S. And what is a rally? It's like a long distance race for motor vehicles. Okay, and usually it's over like public roads, or it can be over rough terrain, which means like hills or over dirt road that is not even. Okay, it's uneven roads. So that's what a rally is. So when you hear the word rally, you can imagine there are big crowds. There's a lot of people watching people race. Okay,
所以 rally 就有点像是一个竞赛，一个比赛的感觉。所以这个是重车团的这个重车团跑。有点像大家玩那个跑跑卡丁车，有没有一个比赛的感觉？那有可能是平的路，也有可能是障碍赛，可能在那种比较崎岖的路上面去骑你的重机这样子的一个比赛。
And here we see the adverb increasingly, okay, and the adjective popular. Okay, so here, what does increasingly popular means? It means that it's getting more and more popular.
越来越受欢迎。
Yeah, maybe like over the years, like last year there was 1,000 people, and then this year there's 1,500 people, and maybe next year there's 2,000 people. That means it's increasingly popular. More and more people are coming to these motorcycle rallies. Okay, and pay attention. Even though this sentence has comma to, there's no pause when I'm reading it. Motorcycle rallies became increasingly popular too. Okay, so just know that we put a comma to just so that we, like when we're reading it, we know that we're saying also. We mean also. But when you're actually saying out loud, you don't need a pause.
通常看到逗号我们会念的时候习惯会停顿一下，但是要特别注意的是 to 这个字基本上它其实就在提醒我们说，哦，这个句子是跟着上一个一起的，也是的意思 also 的意思，所以当我们看到逗号 to 的时候，它其实为了书写上面方便看，阅读的时候不需要做停顿。
Sturgis, South Dakota, a usually sleepy town, started hosting one in 1938.
那美国的这个南达科他州的这个史特吉斯，这个通常非常冷清的一个城镇哦，它从1938年就开始举办机车团跑这个运动 rally。
Yes. So Sturgis, South Dakota. South Dakota is the state, okay? And Sturgis is the city. In English, we'll say city, state. Okay, so Sturgis, South Dakota. Then we have another comma, usually sleepy town. This part is like the previous sentence. Two sentences ago. Where we didn't need that's just additional information about this town, about this city. Okay, so we could take this part out. It could be Sturgis, South Dakota started hosting one in 1938. So a usually sleepy town is just describing Sturgis. So what does it mean by sleepy, this adjective? Does it mean that it's tired? No, it means that it is usually kind of boring because it makes you want to sleep. And there's nothing really going on. So a usually sleepy town, it also can mean, instead of boring sounds a little bit rude. It could also mean that it's a very quiet town, a usually quiet town, started hosting one. So what does it mean by hosting an event? That means that you're in charge of it, right? 你举办 the event in 1938.
所以这边 Sturgis 要记得在英文里面，我们从小写到大，所以我们先写了city。城市名字才写州，那如果再放大的话，当然就是美国嘛。但我们这一篇都在讲美国，所以它的国家直接省略了。再来有 usually sleeping town， 其实这一段跟我们刚刚看到 which 的那个句子是一样的，它是一个补充说明。不写的话，文法上正确，但我写了，我的读者更爱，因为读者读起来方便。那 sleepy 的这个字呢，我们除了当瞌睡虫 sleepy 以外 ，sleepy 也可以代表很安静、很清幽、没有什么人的，会有一点无聊的。对。
All right. Today, the small town of 6,700 people hosts around 500,000 bikers each August.
那这个仅有6700位居民的小镇，每年8月的时候会接待50万名的重机人士哦，比它的城镇的人还多呢。
That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
So in this sentence, today does not necessarily mean 今天. It can mean like nowadays or nowadays, okay? So pay attention. Some sentences today does not mean 今天. Okay, 如今的意思. The small town of 6,700 people hosts around 500,000 bikers. So people who ride on motorcycles are bikers.
好多机车欸。
Yeah, that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the review. All right, Minnie 老师, what is an invention?
就是一个创造出来新创的东西。
Yes, and the verb is invent.
发明。
What if I say that the first motorcycle was powered by steam? What does powered by something mean?
代表它被什么驱动。
And a lot of these motorcycles started popping up in Europe.
开始慢慢的出现，
突然间的出现那种感觉。Okay? And then Harley Davidson followed suit after the Indian Motorcycle Company. So follow suit.
就代表他模仿跟进这个公司。
Okay, hey, let's hit the road.
走上路旅游去。
Yes. And motorcycles have become increasingly popular. What does increasingly mean?
Increase 是增加，所以 increasingly popular 就是逐渐变得越来越受欢迎。
Yes, and it's an adverb, okay? And what is a sleepy town?
就代表是一个瞌睡的城镇，代表它很清静，没有什么人，有点无聊。
Yeah, but if I'm talking about a person, like I am sleepy, then that can mean that I want to sleep. Yes.
想睡觉。
Okay, but if it's a place, we usually mean that it's kind of boring.
Yes.
This is quiet. Okay? All right, thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
第24页文化之窗机车大车拼
Motorcycles versus scooters. In the U.S., freedom is everything. Nothing says freedom more than taking to the open road on a motorcycle. But what really led to America's great love affair with these two-wheeled beasts? Perhaps surprisingly, motorcycles are not actually an American invention. The first one was made in Paris in 1867, and it was powered by steam. About 20 years later, the first motorcycles using modern engines popped up in Europe. Soon the idea spread to America. In 1901, the Indian Motorcycle Company produced the first American-made motorcycles. 2 years later, Harley-Davidson followed suit. As the 20th century continued, motorcycles became a symbol of youth and freedom in the U.S., mostly for young men. Movies like The Wild One, which was released in 1953 and starred Marlon Brando, made many young guys want to buy a bike and hit the road. Motorcycle rallies became increasingly popular too. Sturgis, South Dakota, a usually sleepy town, started hosting one in 1938. Today, the small town of 6,700 people hosts around 500,000 bikers each August.